You don't have to necessarily go back. All right, good evening and welcome to the first city council meeting, the city of Sunbury in the year of 2023. It's January 4th, 7:30 p.m. Would you please join me in a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cooper? Here. Mr. Capel?
Here.
Mr. Ghost?
Here.
Mr. Grumney?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Mayor St. John?
Here.
All present.
All right, this evening we do have a public hearing.
Mr. Neff is here.
And Mr. Neff is also here. Sorry. For the record. For the record.
You're used to being called Mayor Neff.
Right. All right, are we ready to roll? We're all here. Okay. We have a public hearing and that is for Kintner Crossing. It's a rezoning application and I'm going to pass it to our assistant law director. Is that the title?
Mr. Mayor.
All right.
Legal counsel that's here tonight.
Lead counsel.
Thank you. So in a moment, as the mayor indicated, this is a public hearing. So we're going to be on the record. As you've noticed, there's a court stenographer here who's going to be taking down everything that's said. So in a moment, we will ask for her to swear in anyone who will be providing any testimony tonight or anticipates that they'll provide any testimony. So if you think that you're going to want to get up and speak with respect to this hearing on this application, then go ahead and stand up at that time and raise your right hand and we'll swear you in. If you do get sworn in, that doesn't mean you have to testify, but if you want to testify, we need you to swear in. So it just makes it a lot simpler and more efficient if we do that all at the outset. And then I would ask, again, since this is being recorded and on the record, that if you do wish to testify at the appropriate time, the mayor will direct you up to the lectern there. And then when you get there, please state clearly what your name is and what your address is so that the stenographer can make sure she can get that down for the purpose of the record. And then, try to only speak at one time. So if the mayor or any of the other council members are asking any questions, let them finish their question or their talking before you start talking, because it's really impossible for the stenographer to type what two different people are saying at the same time. So that all makes sense. I think we'll turn it over to the stenographer to administer the oath.
Anybody who wants to speak on the topic? Raise your right hand and swear you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will present will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, we're going to open with the applicant portion. I believe Mr. Smith is going to be discussing the rezoning application with us this evening.
And real quick, while Mr. Smith is getting ready, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I will, I've marked and will enter in for the record 3 exhibits tonight. I have marked as Exhibit A, the application, which is this looks like 8-section binder that was submitted that the council submitted to council with the opportunity for them to review. What's marked as Exhibit B is a 2-page document, which is the website public notice that was provided prior to tonight's hearing. And what is marked as Exhibit C is a nine-page document that is the proof of mailing service that was served upon all required persons for tonight's hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. My name is Gary Smith, 720 East Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio. It's really good to see you all again. Feels like just about a month I was here. But now that the year is, or the world is officially 1 year older, Happy New Year. And I'm gonna just go through, I know a couple of you have really been involved in a lot of discussions. This has kind of been a long process at the zoning commission. Very fruitful, but I know several of the council members haven't seen this yet, so I'm just gonna go back through the presentation, kind of give you an idea of where we are, where we started, what the project's about. For those of you that have seen it, I'm sorry if I bore you to tears, but so this is kind of overall of the city. I have with me Scott Mallory and Randy Logan from Highland Real Estate. So if there's additional questions, they may pitch in the conversation. So this is just kind of an overview of the city where the project is. You can see the project location here in white, kind of in the center of the page. I'll try to point to both because I know there's some folks in the audience too. Project location's right here. It's right along what is to be or is planned to be the future Sunbury Parkway as it comes in from Interstate 71 and into the city. So that actually runs through the middle of what is currently the Foreman's property. And so we are right now, the Highland is in contract on everything south of that connector, including some of the commercial pieces. And Steve, if you'll forward one here, or I'm sorry, Steve, if you'll forward one, there you go. So this is the existing site. You can see. So this is the existing 3637. This is Cheshire Road. The Sunbury Parkway that comes in here. So 3637 Cheshire Road, Sunbury Parkway as it comes across. We have a preliminary right-of-way alignment for Sunbury Parkway. So we know approximately where that's going with a reasonable amount of certainty, unless Weston found anything different in the past couple of months. But I think that's the expectation of where that alignment is going to end up. We're pretty close to it. And so we have the property to the south of it, and that property right now is has really a number of different zoning classifications on it. The stuff in the purple along 3637 is all zone commercial, and Highland Real Estate has this piece of that commercial. They are currently marketing that. It's already zoned appropriately for the use, so it's not part of this application, but it will be part of the development. So they're marketing commercial outparcel uses here currently. The property in front of you tonight really is the property that's bounded by the heavier dark line. That's the property that ultimately needs rezoned because we've got an odd zoning on it currently. So what you see in the orange, this is currently zoned multifamily. And then what's on the balance of this property is currently zoned, I believe, single family or suburban residential. And so we've got kind of a mix of zoning there. Part of the challenge with this is nobody's really sure. The city doesn't have very good records on what that multifamily chunk is or how big it actually is. The only thing we really have is some lines on the map. So we're all kind of estimating what that actually is. And it's a situation I think that as we've been working with the city has been looking to kind of clean up for quite some time and really make that into something that's a little bit more attractive and a little bit more productive use than just a straight multifamily zoning. So what we are proposing to do with the property, if you'll advance one more, is a mixture of two things. Two products. And so the first product, subarea E, is a for sale townhome product. So they're attached single family dwellings, 2-story configuration typically, and they are for sale. So it's not a for rent product. I know we've had a lot of questions on that. It is a for sale product. This product really addresses kind of that missing middle housing. I think you had a presentation not too long ago by Morpsey, kind of talking about that middle housing, that single family housing really kind of creeps up. Really the only opportunities become either some sort of townhome or condominium or rental for folks who just don't have, $40,000, $50,000 to plunk into a down payment, or maybe, you know, they're just kind of out of school, starting out in life, that kind of thing, or maybe they're just, you know, they don't have a family, you know, they just need a place, but they want to build equity. You know, they want to have some ownership, but they just can't get into that, you know, $400,000 or $500,000 house. And then the other section of that, the southern section, to kind of buffer between that use and then the single family to the south, we have a patio home development. And everybody's pretty familiar, I think, at this point with what patio homes are. These are really catered towards the empty nester crowd, folks that, you know, may live in Sunbury, but they may not want a big yard or, you know, a bigger house, or they may not want to mow their yard. Maybe they're more mobile, maybe they travel, but they don't necessarily want to leave their community, and they still want, you know, a single family house with no neighbors. And, you know, they want to take that equity that they've stored up in their, you know, single family home and, you know, park it in another house. And these are typically maintained communities. So typically the homeowners association does all the maintenance and mowing. So if you're one of those snowbirds that likes to kind of pick up in December and, you know, go down to Florida or go to Arizona for a couple of months and come back, you don't have, you know, neighbors worried about, you know, who's going to, you know, plow the sidewalks and, you know, or who's going to mow the yard if you're gone in the summer, those kind of things. So they are, you know, maintained community. So if you'll advance one more. So this is the layout. This isn't where we started, but it is where we ended up. There's been a number of changes as we've gone through the process. Initially, we started out, I think, at 199 units. Now we're down to 188. So we took 10 or 11 units out of the project. We did that to accommodate a couple of changes that we all kind of, as we were working through the process with the zoning commission, a couple of different things came up. But primarily, you know, again, single family and patio homes really to the south. And that's up against kind of the existing ditch. So there's a pretty large ditch. I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar. There's a pretty large ditch that runs along the back of the homes that are existing on Cheshire. We are not impeding that ditch, changing that ditch, modifying that ditch. In fact, there's a lot of existing vegetation, existing trees that are on both sides of that ditch that, you know, provide some natural buffer there. We're not removing those trees. We're not doing any grading in that ditch or anything like that. We will facilitate and kind of helping to clean out that ditch. You know, anything that's necessary to make that stormwater flow a little bit better. So we'll do that, but it's not our intent to, you know, regrade or pipe or do anything different to that ditch. That provides some natural separation and an additional setback between us and, you know, the neighbors to the south. And then the other thing that we did was we, because this is kind of a long straight road, we pulled. You can kind of see a little bit of bow in this road now. That road used to be straight. We pulled that, and that helped us accomplish a couple of things. There was actually really nice stand of trees. You'll see here in a few minutes, we have a tree survey. There's a really nice stand of trees here. That helped us pull away from the existing trees, but it also helped us give a little bit of wiggle to that road. So it's not just a straight view down that road. Then we have the townhomes, again, the for sale townhomes to the north side. Along the parkway, we have a very heavy landscape buffer kind of along Sunbury Parkway. And then we've got a pretty large open space that's really kind of a dual function park for both the patio homes and for the townhomes to use with a lot of different features in there, walking paths, some gardens, and also community gardens, shelter pavilion. Different things just to give people an opportunity to gather, do things kind of in that open space. So it'll really become kind of a nice, beautiful open space. Next slide. So this is really just a black and white version of the development plan. This just describes a little bit more detail, the lot sizes, those kind of things. Next. Same thing. So this is one of the things that we were asked to do as we went through and worked through the zoning process. CT Consultants was looking for us to do some calculations to estimate lot coverage of the buildings, those kind of things. Something we've already kind of talked about a little bit earlier this evening, just to understand the impacts to stormwater and our lot coverage. So this was a slide that kind of indicated that. Next one. And then this is the kind of the open space display. So you can see kind of in this, the network of sidewalks all in yellow along the streets. So there's a sidewalk network that runs along all of the public street, along the inside of the private street here. And then kind of the path that connects those different areas in the center there. And so we're at approximately 7.6 acres of open space, right around 22%. Next slide. So this is the landscape plan. You can start to see the extensive amount of landscaping that kind of lines through the community. Street trees, of course, as you would have in any development, both on the private street or townhomes and on the extension of Kittner Parkway. Forgot to mention that. So Kittner Parkway actually gets extended through the property. For those of you that aren't familiar, comes over, connects ultimately to the parkway. The challenge there is the only access to the parkway there, because it is a divided parkway, is a right in and right out. So people will be able, if they're coming from 71, they'll be able to take a right into the development. But if they're coming out of the development here, they'll only be able to take a right out of the development and have to go towards town. Otherwise, if they want to get out going the other direction, they'll come up Kittner to the light and then go over to 71. Landscaping in the center, you can kind of get an idea of what that park looks like. We have an enlargement of that as well. Landscaping along the buffer. And then, the included landscaping buffer along the backs of the patio homes in between us and the ditch. Next slide, please. So you might have to zoom out on that a little bit. One of the things that we talk about a lot at Planning Commission is ultimately, what the feel of Sunbury Parkway was going to be as you drove past the community. So, we spent a lot of time talking about the landscaping. We spent a lot of time talking about the architecture. So once we got that refined ultimately to where everybody at Planning Commission is happy with it, we had an artist go through and put a 3D model together and then do kind of an illustrative rendering of what that parkway is going to look like ultimately as you're walking down the parkway. So this is a view kind of looking, I think, to the west as you would be going towards 71. And then if you advance to the next slide, I think this is really a view kind of looking across the street at the buffer itself and the townhomes in the background. Next slide. So this is an enlargement of the park. You can see kind of the character of the shelter pavilion, that we're talking about. Community gardens in this center space, open recreational fields, play area. This is community garden pavilion. There's also going to be a smaller pavilion over here in the center. Different types of seed and grass to add interest and just kind of create a unique experience as you walk through that Central Park area. So we've got some regular grass in there, turf, we've got prairie seeds, some different things just to change that up and get that kind of a bucolic feel. Next slide, please. So this is an example of the signage. We have a kind of challenging situation because we don't really have really good street frontage to market from. For one, the parkway doesn't exist today. But the project is looking to move forward to get built. So there isn't a parkway to really market the project from. Our access off of Kittner is really buried behind what's already there. So we are going to have some small signage out where basically our property ends at Kittner as Kittner comes into the property. We'll have some sign here, some fencing up to where that connection gets made up into the property there to the northwest. Two types of sign, a small column sign that can be placed at the entry to the townhomes to kind of differentiate the townhomes a little bit from patio homes. And then the main monument sign that will go on the front. Next slide. So the other section that we got ultimately was kind of the fencing along the back of the townhomes. This is just an example of that. What we're committing to there is to provide a little bit of private space for patio. Next one. Phasing plan, this is just pretty simple, obviously starting at Kentner, working our way back because the parkway doesn't exist. And then ultimately, once the parkway comes through, that will provide a connection there. And then we'll also have access to Street C to Cheshire Road there. One more. This was the tree survey. So this is give you an indication. We had somebody actually go out and survey all of the trees that were on the property along that line and around the property lines. And so this is a representation of all of the trees that are basically, I think, 6 inches above that are in that ditch line. So all of the larger trees. And again, you can see most of those are really outside the influence of the lots, and even the ones that are really kind of along the edge of the lots, you'd be looking to save. As long as there's no utility conflicts, those kind of things. But we've also added, again, some additional screening along the back of that. If you remember back to the landscape plan, just so that we can augment any additional plant material that's there. One more. This is boring. This is the actual tree survey, the spreadsheet. You can keep going. This was just a color of that entry enlargement where Kentner Crossing comes in. So this just gives you a better color elevation of the sign, ultimately what that's going to look like. Next one. And then sample architecture. So we have been working with a builder, but we also have incorporated some pretty strict standards in the text. We spent a lot of time negotiating those standards at the zoning commission. Kind of going back and forth over that. So the version that you have in front of you today in the text is the version that was pretty carefully negotiated with the planning commission and everybody settled on. But these are just some examples of the potential townhome if you just want to flip through this, and the patio homes. So these first few are the patio homes, the sample elevation of the patio homes, what those look like. I think everybody's pretty familiar with them. And yeah, you can keep going. Yeah. And then the townhomes. Now, one of the things that's important to remember here with the townhome elevations is really what you're looking here is just kind of an idea of what we're talking about in terms of fenestration and the breakdown of the facade and the roof lines and everything of that nature. But what's not reflected in here, because these are old and we didn't get an updated elevation, was the commitment that we made to doing natural materials on the first floor and some natural materials on the back. That does not show up on these elevations, but that is in your text, and that is part of what we've committed to as part of the zoning. Next slide. So same thing. Similar the townhome, just different types of material in the townhomes. And just floor plan of the townhomes. And that's really it. I have the text in here in case there's any questions, but I'm sure you guys don't want to listen to me talk about the text for the next 30 minutes. So at this point, I'd be happy to open it up to any questions or take any questions or if you don't have any questions, I guess you can move forward however.
Any comments or questions from city council? All right. Do we have binders for everyone?
Not.
Okay. Do we request them?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Really? Wait, I didn't get more binders. I apologize. If we
Sorry.
missed that.
We'll have that for the
The
next one.
holidays. Yeah, I will make sure I will get them to you tomorrow.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
Yes. How many do you need?
Probably 7.
7? Okay, we'll get that taken care of.
Thank you very much.
8, so we have an official record.
Okay, we'll get that taken care of. My apologies.
No worries. I like the tree table that you had up there. That's good. Thank you very much. I think we're gonna go to West Hall for any comments from the city.
No comments. We had an 18-page review memo. We've been through that with planning commission in detail. The applicants taking care of the majority of the comments. We do want to do a final check on the development text. I think there were just some minor tweaks there that we may need to make, but A lot of discussion on the building materials, the facades, the natural materials, the landscaping, screening, the density, the open space. So we've really worked through all that. And I think we have a nice product here.
Any questions or comments for staff? All right, we're on to any public comment. If you were sworn in and you would like to speak, please come on up. Please state your name and your address, and we'll limit it to 3 minutes, please. Steve, thank you.
My name is Gail Jameson. I live at 816 Cheshire Road, at the very end of phase 3. I live right next to the lift station that's on Cheshire Road. We've lived there for about 35 years. We bought our property, built our house, and the property that's under consideration right now was set up for single family homes at the time with roads and lanes and everything. Zoning codes were established years ago, and I understand things have changed, but what was safe then should be safe now. So the waterway behind Cheshire Road homes, it's called a ditch right now, floods when we have real heavy rains. So that's one of my concerns is some of the properties on closer to the highway lose a third to a half of their yards when there's flooding with the heavy rains. So now we're going to take a farm field and put down a lot of concrete and pavement. And I realize there's a pond set up at the end of the phase 3 to catch water. But my concern is if it's deep enough and big enough to hold water when we have those heavy rains. The people that are outside of village city limits down onto Domigan Road, they lose a lot of their property when we do have those heavy rains. I apologize, I did attend the July meeting, but I had not attended any other zoning meetings. I wasn't aware of the continuation of everything. So I'm voicing some concerns ahead. The other concern is that I have is excess housing in such a short period of time. We've got the Rolling Hills and the Price Ponds development going in on Golf Course Road, and there's 486 homes to go there. And now we're talking Kittner Crossing at 188 homes. So you've got 674 homes potentially under construction and happening, people moving in all at the same time. That's at least 674 more cars on the roads, children going to school, that will affect also our waste treatment and fire departments and our police department. This is the first time in 2022 on Cheshire Road, there was a fire department coming from another area on a call in the Sunbury city limits. That has never happened in the 35 years I've lived here. So now we're adding almost 700 homes within probably a year and a half to 2 years. Another concern I have is the traffic. With 674 homes, you've got at least 674 vehicles. A lot of the townhomes, the pictures and the patio homes, they're 1.5 to 2 car garages. So you've got a potential of another 1,400 cars between the 3 developments coming onto Cheshire Road, Domigan Road, Golf Course Road. Some of those roads are not even in the city limits of Sunbury. So there's concern that you'll need to work with other townships and areas to bring the roads up to snuff to be able to handle that much traffic. The Kittner Road, at the end of phase 3, they've got a road coming out onto Cheshire Road. In the original meeting, it was called an emergency access road. So it will be used a lot more by residents because who wants to live at the end of the development and drive all the way up to Route 36, 37 to get out of the development before the big comes in. It comes out right in front of my home, which we knew was going to happen or could happen eventually. But a lot of you don't know, just to the west of our driveway, there's a slight rise in Cheshire Road. So when that road comes out on the Cheshire Road and somebody's pulling out there to make a left-hand turn, they aren't going to be able to see the other direction traffic coming, so there will probably be accidents there. And it's called an emergency access road, so I don't know if that means it's a less quality road, if it's going to be able to handle the traffic, or what it really means. If it's not as good a quality as a regular road, will Sunbury residents have to pay to fix it and make it be a quality road later on? At the original July meeting, the patio homes were set to be 5 feet apart.
Pardon me, Ms. Jameson, we're over 5 minutes. I'm sorry if I didn't hear the time signal. If you wouldn't mind
I'll be louder.
saying something
Okay.
there. We're gonna need to wrap up, and I apologize. We're gonna try to keep it fair for everybody who's here this evening.
Okay, but those are just some of my concerns with the traffic and everything in our community with
Thank-
this much development all of a sudden.
Thank you, Ms. Jameson. All right, are there any other speakers this evening? Come on.
Barry Bennett, 5401 Plantation Road. My comment is more of a general nature, and I'll make up for her time by only going a minute. Yeah, it's just basically traffic, especially on 36, because that's all I know about. I frequent a lot of the restaurants, a lot of the businesses, and it is virtually impossible at times to get out of their driveways, even now. I'm sure council's aware of this, but we're adding more and more homes, and I know it's ODOT, but I don't know what can be done. I just wanted to bring that to your attention that something does need to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak on behalf of the development? Is that all the public comments? Mrs. Jameson, did you have anything else you wanted to add? I just want to make sure.
Just a couple other little.
Okay.
things. The patio homes originally were set to be 5 feet apart. And in the July meeting, one of the other residents brought a piece of fencing that was 5 feet long and set it down on the floor. And it's not very big, and a concern is whether, I don't know if that was changed, it might be, because there's a few fewer patio homes being built. But when I thought about it later, that 5 feet, you get two emergency. If there's an emergency in the backyard of those patio homes, you've got two emergency persons coming with a stretcher to go in the backyard. I don't know if they'd even fit through that much space. And then the last concern was the townhomes that was the for sale property and not to be rentals. And I questioned that, and they said the homeowners association could make rules against the rental of those places. But I spoke with other people in other communities, and their homeowners association usually doesn't have much control over that, or won't take that control because they don't want to offend other homeowners, their neighbors. So I didn't know if something could be written into the deed to restrict the rental of properties instead of purchase. So
Thank you very much. All right, are there any comments for the public here? All right, this is an ordinance, it's on our first reading, it's ordinance number 2023.02. But with that said, if there's no other comments from staff or council, then I'd make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
A second by President Ghost. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Neff,
Yes.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Ghost,
Yes.
Mr. Capel,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
and Mrs. Cooper. Yes. 7 eggs.
Mr. Martin, yes.
So I seriously miss you. I'm having a day today.
Moving, you're next.
Yeah, I'm next. Next time I'll be the one. It's
All right.
Right.
To be fair.
We have the state of the city, and I'd like to address council and the public. 2022 was a year filled with investment. Sunbury invested in people, technology, equipment, real estate, and infrastructure. We added new services, and we've invested significantly in planning for the future. The beautiful Big Walnut High School campus opened in 2022, and in partnership with the schools, the Sunbury Police Department now has a school resource officer inside the schools to provide added safety and improved community relations. As Sunbury has matured into a city, Council unanimously passed the first collective bargaining agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police. I want to thank the officers and sergeants for unanimously approving the collective bargaining agreement. There were concessions made by both sides, and in the end, we have an agreement that will serve our city and police department well by positioning our police force to attract top talent and retain experienced officers in the department. Our people are what makes Sunbury such a great place to live and work. I'm so proud that we are now able to offer our staff excellent health benefits. Our efforts are critical to attracting and retaining employees. The new plan will save the city approximately $150,000 per year and will reduce employees' premiums by 20 to 35%. Better yet, we've introduced an employer-funded HSA that will reduce deductibles for individual employees down from $5,000 previously to $500 annually, and for families down from $10,000 previously to $1,000. There was so much hard work that went into making this dream a reality, and I just want to say a special thank you to Deputy Chief Sean Wade and Assistant Administrator Daryl Hennessy for their diligence and persistence to make the lives for each one of our city employees better. I want to take a moment to congratulate Kathy Belcher, not here tonight, it hasn't been for the past month, on our longtime finance director on her retirement. Sunbury has a strong financial base due to Kathy's prudency and forward thinking. In 2022, we formed the Board of Zoning Appeals and the Board of Personnel Appeals. Council authorized the single largest expansion of our wastewater treatment plant, doubling its capacity to 2 million gallons per day. Sunbury completed the largest expansion of our sewer network along Golf Course Road, 1.3 miles to service the north and west sides of Sunbury. We implemented the street striping program and to address deteriorated paint on roads to ensure our streets continue to be safe. We implemented the street sweeping program, which not only beautifies our town, but protects our valuable stormwater infrastructure. We repaved Kintner Parkway, Columbus Street, and repaired the brickwork on Granville Street. The services department invested in a new front wheel loader, vent track, and mini track hoe. Our police department invested in a UTV with generous donations from the VFW and the Fraternal Order of Eagles. We upgraded all of our body cameras and now have cameras inside of every single police cruiser. Our beloved K9 Ace was recertified and is now back in service. All the new benefits and services and equipment are sound investments, but council listened to our employees and invested in new real estate and facilities. We're growing and our staff is out of quality office space to expand. We purchased property on Columbus Street and plan to create a new police headquarters and a separate services building. Council also authorized the renovation of the existing municipal building to ensure we have safe and scalable workspace. We continue to invest in trails and connectivity and require new developments to incorporate multi-use trails throughout. 2022 was a great year in Sunbury, especially as I reflect on our wonderful events where our community came together in numbers never seen before. The July 4th parade, Sunbury Sizzle and Sound, and Christmas on the Square. But on September 30th, our community faced a tragedy during the homecoming parade. Kenny Catfish Zedeker was critically injured and rushed to the hospital. The community rallied around Kenny, raising over $90,000 for the family, set up prayer vigils, and held fundraisers. Miraculously, Kenny survived and was released from the hospital in December, and all indications tend to point towards a near full recovery. I'm so proud of the way the community rallied behind Kenny. It's a testament to what community, love, and prayer are all about. In looking to 2023, we will continue to be faced with increased development pressure, and it is the city's intention to grow strategically and responsibly. We will experience growth demand from commercial sectors not yet seen in Eastern Delaware County. These are exciting opportunities to have in front of us, especially if we are able to partner with our schools to incentivize a diverse tax base with the new development. Council invested in the Sunbury Parkway District Plan, a strategic plan that reflects the vision for the future development of the parkway and enables the long-term financial viability of the city. Council also invested in a fiber planning study with the goal of delivering fiber internet to every business and resident in Sunbury. We want to attract high-tech companies with good paying jobs. Thanks to our Sunbury employees, our residents, and our council, Sunbury is and will continue to be a wonderful place to play, work, and live. John, I'm going to steal this multiple times. The great councilman, John Grumney quote on a small town feel. Are we losing Sunbury's small town feel? What exactly is a small town feel? Is it based on population or a type of housing, events on the square, football games, or schools? Probably depends on who you ask. I would propose a small town feel has more to do with the character of the people who live here, who care for their neighbors, care for their schools, and care for their community. It is who we are and less of what we are. I encourage you to get involved in your community. There are numerous opportunities to drive positive change through boards, commissions, work groups, neighborhood groups, church groups, sports teams, and most importantly, right inside your own neighborhood by helping a neighbor who could use a friend. Sunbury, we're not such a small town anymore, but our values remain unchanged. People first, always. We look out for one another. We are a community of mindful individuals with an eye towards the future. It's who we are. It's the Sunbury way. No matter what, we work, we give back, and we thrive together. I'm proud to be your neighbor, your friend, and your mayor. Thank you for this honor, and thank you for making Sunbury home. God bless.
Amen.
Good work. All right, we're on the minutes.
I'm just curious. Should Mr. Neff and Mr. Grundy be sworn in before we start doing things that we're voting on?
We actually already swore them in, I believe it was 2 days ago.
Oh, I thought it needed to happen at a meeting.
It happened by our law director.
Effective as of January 2nd, I believe. These are the oath of office right here.
Okay, well, I'm
So they're
sorry.
in and it's official. So
Sorry to interrupt. I didn't know that.
Would you like to do the photo op and do it again? That's it. That's a lot of words to not.
Yeah, right. It is.
for the record.
Good.
Yeah.
No, good catch. Good call out. Thank you. Thank you.
Motion on the minutes.
We got a motion by Councilwoman Cooper. Second by Councilman Capel. Discussion.
Yes, it says at that meeting that I was absent, but I was here.
I will get that
Right.
changed.
Good deal. Any other edits? Roll call.
Mrs. Cooper? Yes. Mr. Capel?
Yes.
Mr. Ghost?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Grumney?
Yes.
Mayor St. John?
Yes.
Mr. Neff?
Yes.
7 years.
All right. We're on to the visitors section. And I just want to be really clear. This is where if you have things that you want to discuss with city council, now would be the time. This is not a public hearing, but this is time that you can interface with city council if you have anything to say. Would anybody like to speak? Mr. Holler, would you mind coming up, stating your name and address? We'll work to limit it to 3 minutes.
I'm Paul Holler, live at 575 Red Trent Drive. With respect to resolution 2023-01. One of the whereas statements for that says, and I'll paraphrase. The developer filed 4 applications, and with an attachment exhibit A with this council of the city of Sunbury, requesting certain parcels of real property be added to the district. In the first sentence of the first whereas statement, it says, again, paraphrasing, whereas pursuant to chapter 349, a petition was filed with the Board of County Commissioners of Delaware County back in 2005 in order to create the NCA that this resolution addresses. So in summary, it was created in 2002 by the Board of Commissioners of the Delaware County. And here it is in 2022, a petition was presented to the council to increase the district. Taking a look at revised code 34903, one sentence of that says, at any time after the creation of a new community NCA, the developer may file an application with the clerk of the organization Board of Commissioners with which the petition originated in order to either add or decrease property. It appears to me that this resolution does not follow what the code requires. I would appreciate it if somebody could explain to me why I'm the only one in the room that thinks there's a conflict there.
Thank you, Mr. Holler. Is that all you have?
Just that one question.
Okay, thank you very much. You're gonna take that away, because I know there was a flurry of emails, and I don't know the terminology. I was looking for the email, but I know there's discussion between us and the county who created it.
Yes, so as to your questions and to inform council, the resolution has been fully vetted through the law director's office as well as the applicant's attorneys for legal sufficiency. And it's certainly the opinion of the law director that it is legally sufficient. With respect to the direct concerns regarding the Board of County Commissioners, it's my understanding there's a parallel track that's happening simultaneously at the Board of County Commissioners where a substantially similar resolution is being presented for vote or adoption through them as well. So it's a multifaceted or two-pronged system in the situation, but is regarding the sufficiency of the resolution from a legal standpoint, it's our opinion that it is. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was reading through, so our role is, in quotes, the proximate city. The county will need to sign off before its review of the application. So the county should expect the city to provide physical copies of the applications at some point after its meeting tomorrow.
That sounds correct. As to what the exact procedure is, I'm not 100% sure about. That sounds right. But yes, there is a parallel procedure that is involving the county as well. So it's not as though that they are being left out of the loop or there's not the required action to be taken on their part as well.
And I know the county prosecutor, both the NCA attorney, our attorney, the developers, the landowners, everybody has been involved, is in agreement with this process.
I think that's right. I think there's been more attorneys than anybody would like to get together that have been through that. So suffice to say, so
agree with that. Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? All right. We are on to committee reports. Mr. Ghost.
Yes, earlier this evening, we had our monthly parks meeting. We discussed J.R. Smith and Freedom Park once again and the amenities there. And finalizing how we want that to look and appear, what we prefer. And then we are going to schedule a town hall at some point in the future, but we still need some cost estimates from CT, and they're going to work on that. So we still have some more work to do there. And we had a report from Mr. Hennessy on the cemetery and the costs and the fees. He's going to do a little more research for us for our next meeting. Do a little comparative analysis of the other cemeteries in the area and see how we compare. See if we need to add or subtract, increase or decrease the fee structure. That's it from the parks. I did have a fire board meeting last week, just very brief, about 10 minutes, just the end of the year appropriations. And it was approved, no issues.
Good deal.
Moving forward.
Rosenbauer truck on the way.
On schedule, April and May delivery.
Great. Thank you.
Hopefully, yes.
All right, Mr. Grundy.
Nothing to add to that.
All right, Mr. Cap.
We had a productive services committee meeting before we got started here tonight. Talked about wastewater treatment plan design. The project for that is on schedule and on budget. Probably all said and done to complete in April of 2025. So it's a little bit down the road. We also discussed purchasing an industrial vacuum truck for the sewer department. Dale was looking at truck models that wouldn't require CDL to drive, and he was actually impressed with some of the trucks that they found. Looking at the recommendation currently is to purchase I didn't write down what the name of it was, but a demo truck that run in the neighborhood of $275,000. So we'll probably see that coming up in council here before too long. Discussed Berkshire Township, a bit of a sharing agreement with us for winter road treatment, basically swapping 3 Bs and a K for some parts of Cheshire and Golf Course Road that we'll maintain, and Berkshire can help us out by covering 3 Bs and a K. And then the big part of the meeting, Dan Whited presented from CT presented on the potential for stormwater utility program. And this was very informative as far as especially what the stormwater utility could assist us with in the city. The big takeaway for me was with upkeep of infrastructure, because eventually we will have to pay for upkeep of infrastructure. And this provides a mode for that revenue to be captured, as well as visibility on how the money's allocated towards those expenses. One of the big figures that I took away from it was a total system replacement cost of $25.7 million for our underground assets. That was pretty amazing. And then you look at some of these bridges that cost $500,000, $800,000 replacement cost. There's significant costs out there that we need to address in the long run. And this seems like it might be a good method for doing so. So that's all I have.
That's a great update. Thank you. The vac truck, if you've seen Dale drive our current vac truck around, it's massive. It looks like a big electrical truck almost. It's got kind of a spindle on the front of it. It breaks down all the time. Last year we had what I would call an emergency event, and this truck is used to clear sewer lines. I mean, both vacuum them out, but also kind of ultra high pressure wash them through. And we couldn't get parts for it. And we had somebody with sewer backup like coming in their basement, and that's not good. And we had to rent a truck, pay a premium rate. The truck's 18 years old. You may have mentioned that. And you need a CDL to drive it. This new one you don't, which is a huge upside. Just a smaller footprint, higher pressure, more nimble, under warranty, all those good things. Cool. Great update. Mrs. Cooper?
Nothing yet this year.
All right. Mr. Martin?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Neff?
Nothing to report.
All right. We are on to police report. We did have the police report. Mr. Ramirez, would you like to speak this evening with City Council?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. I don't have anything right now. I feel like I'm going to have something in the next couple of meetings. Anything? All right. Good deal. We're on the administrator report, a bulky one.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I will hit on 3 items. We have a conditional offer of employment out to a fairly recent graduate of The Ohio State University. And he has some work experience with a nonprofit in Columbus called Village Connections. He was also a mortgage banker at one point. He's trying to find his foothold into the career, and so we want to offer him that opportunity. He's a good communicator, enthusiastic, and I anticipate spending a good bit of my time in late January and early February training him up. And then the other 2 things I wanted to mention, both with the street department and wastewater, and probably the police department also, because they were facing this same weather. The Christmas weekend storm was challenging. Temperatures were very low and the wind was very high. And the timing wasn't great because it was right before Christmas and people wanted to use the streets. But I think we did a very good job of dealing with that weather and keeping the streets passable. In hindsight, we tried the help us help you approach with no parking. The next time where it's close to meeting our criteria for a snowman, we will declare a snow ban to clear the streets and help with our response. Something you might not think about is the wastewater plant during those kind of temperatures. One, just the fact that they're out, the employees are out in that weather. That stuff actually freezes. They have to break ice in tanks. They had to use portable propane heaters to keep mechanicals working, when you're at 50, 30, whatever it was below. And we did have a lift station. It's an above ground lift station, had a little bit of freezing there. They were able to just thaw it without any damage to the lift station or interruption of services. But both those departments had to get out in that stuff and deal with it. And I know when I finally got home on Friday, I bunkered up for Saturday and didn't leave my house, and they were still out in it. So I appreciate their work. And I'll answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Steve? I didn't talk to Steve about this ahead of time, but just so everybody's on the same page, and I can't call you up all at once outside of this meeting. Steve's retiring this year. Just want to let you know after a long.
My contract's up in August. And
Yeah.
I told you I was gonna do 2 years, and
Yes.
so.
You're on it. Just sticking to it. There's the clock in the back of their head moving, because I'm sure Steve has his going.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Steve.
You're welcome.
All right. We're on to the engineer's report.
Thank you, Mayor. My report's actually on the OneDrive, so it's not in the packet. Just one update on there since the report from the 21st of last month. The Eagle Storage Project, we're still in the plan review stage with that applicant, so recommend that we have the 3rd reading and table that, and I believe we have a request to table that. So we just need to work through the final approval on that Eagle Storage site plan.
Any major issues? Yes.
Just working through 3 or 4 page comment letter on the engineering pieces. Still want to work through getting the building elevations, the materials, the color, the any fencing, landscape plan, lighting. I want to really go through all that to make sure everything's correct. And need to work through that before we do that 3rd reading and approval. Or we can do the 3rd reading, but it'll just be tabled after the 3rd reading. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Any comments or questions? All right, great. We're on to resolutions, no 3rd readings, no 2nd readings. We're on to 1st readings, resolution number 2023.01, a resolution determining sufficiency of the application to add certain parcels of real property to the Sunbury Meadows Community Development Authority and to amend the petition for establishment of of the Sunbury Meadows Community Development Authority as a new community authority and setting a date for a public hearing under chapter 349 of the Ohio Revised Code. Mr. Whitney, I understand this wouldn't need emergency language, that it is a resolution. Do we need a suspension of the rules to hit a timeline to get this to the county commissioners or?
Yes, we do. So we would ask for a motion to suspend the rules for the 3 readings for the second. And again, it's the date as set for the resolution is February 1st. So that would be the date of the hearing that's being set on this.
That public hearing would be here
Yes.
in chambers. Okay.
Any comments or a motion is made? All right, I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Yeah.
A second.
Second by Mr. Goes. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mr. Capel,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper. Yes. Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mr. Neff,
Yes.
7 years.
All right, I'll make a motion on the resolution.
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Goes. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mr. Neff,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper. Yes. Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Capel,
Yes.
7 years.
All right. We are on the third readings of ordinance number 2022.50. An ordinance approving the commercial and industrial site plan and building application of Cutler Properties Limited for construction of storage buildings to be located at 601 West Cherry Street. I'd like to make a motion to table.
Second.
Second by Mr. Capel. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Capel.
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mr. Neff,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper. Yes. Mr. Martin,
Yes.
7 years.
All right, no second readings. We're on to first readings. Ordinance number 2023.02. An ordinance approving the application of Randy Lobig on behalf of Highland Real Estate to rezone approximately 39.9 plus or minus acres of property owned by Kirks Creek Investment LLC, located south of US 36 State Route 37 and north of Cheshire Road from R2 Low Density Residential District and R4 Multifamily District to Planned Residence District pursuant to the City of Sunbury zoning code. I wanted to make a couple comments. I don't believe I made these in the public hearing, but I made notes. There are a couple of positive things about this. There's a hodgepodge of zoning in that area. You probably saw the different color coding. And those are not only different uses, but different density levels. That was zoned a long time ago. And what you have when you have isolated zoning is typically different characteristics, and it may not flow well. I think that is a benefit to rezone all of this as planned residential. I wanted to hit on the 674 homes. This doesn't lessen the sting, but hopefully it adds some perspective. It's the Rolling Hills, Price Ponds, and this development. These are on approximately 8 to 10 year build out schedules. So you're talking about 60 homes per year or thereabouts. This past year in 2022, I believe we were at 120 homes coming out of the ground. So it may actually decelerate slightly. And regarding, I did have a question about the road, the emergency access road. I know that was initially as an emergency access road. My thought was that was actually going to be like a full service connection, as in a street with curbs and storm drains, no lesser standard of a road, and actually would be utilized as a road. And I think there's a couple things to do with that. One, we want 2 ingress egress points for fire. That's always a focus for us. The other thing is it just seems to make a lot of sense that we would add a third connection if at all possible, especially knowing that Sunbury Parkway, the connection is a right in, right out only. Is that
Correct.
Okay.
Everything you said is
Mhm.
correct.
Thank you for making a concerted effort to preserve the trees. We got to figure out a way. I've said this every meeting since this time, how we can figure out. I know you added a little bow into the road. I don't want a stop sign. This isn't like a personal preference of mine. I actually have like the clause in the I think it's the National Transportation Traffic, whatever. You know, if you have a stretch of road that is over, I don't know, 1,500 square foot, there should be some sort of something that stops the traffic, slows it. I'm not using the right words here, but calms the traffic. And I see it as a cut through. I really do. So I know you're trying. I know you're hearing me because you're making small tweaks.
The question is always, what do we do? And, you know, we're committed to continuing to work on this too. I mean, nobody, including, us, you, nor the builder will want that to be cut through traffic or speed through traffic. I mean, I think everybody really has an investment to solve that issue. The question is always, what do you do? The speed bumps are never really appreciated, and they're always taken out by folks, you know, in the snowplow. And that, you know, folks driving the snowplow hate them. So how do you deal with it? You know, do we work out something with some sort of, you know, curb bump outs or something? You know, I know you mentioned you don't like stop signs. Sometimes that's the simplest solution. You know, to force people to slow down. So there's a number of things that we can look at. And as we continue going through this, and because we still have final engineering and all those things, we'll continue to work with, you know, the city and Wes, and just to make sure that we get a solution that everybody's happy with.
Thank you.
We understand where we're at.
Thank you. I want to call out a couple other things that I don't know if we mentioned. Mr. Smith did hit on the reduced number of units. I would say they strategically reduced the number of units. So, I mean, there were specific requests from the zoning commission. You added a connection. I wish I had the visual right here, but you added a connection into the properties that were going to be landlocked.
Right.
North of you against 36, 37.
That's right.
You also reduced lots when coming from the right in, right out of Sunbury Parkway when you're turning in. I think you reduced 1 or 2 lots there to add line of sight. The community gardens is a I think a nice feature. And one other thing it made me think of, if you read the comprehensive plan, all 116 pages, is it talks about a traditional neighborhood district, which we don't technically have, but if you look at the picture of traditional neighborhood district, it kind of fits that mold where you have a community gathering space and it's all focused on this central area where people can gather.
There's, I think, one point of clarification too, because we appreciate the comments from the neighbor. I think there was some confusion on the setbacks. She was correct. When we came in initially, our first application, we had 5-foot setbacks. Now that's not 5 feet of separation between the houses. That's 5 feet of separation between one house and the property line and the next house and the property line. So that's a total of 10 feet of separation. In any case, several members of the planning commission, including yourself, Mayor, made it clear that they were not in favor of approving any development with 5-foot side yard setbacks. Asked us to increase it to 6 feet to match some of the other developments that have been recently approved in the city. So those houses are now set back from the property line 6 feet, or a total of 12 feet of separation between the homes. So if there are emergencies, personnel need to get between the homes to get to the backyard. That's easily achievable in that space. So I just wanted to make that clear. Certainly understand all of the concerns over the ditch. We talked about that kind of at length, and certainly we're willing to do whatever we can within the confines of our property. You know, if it's cleaning items out of the ditch that might be, you know, causing disruption. It's my understanding that some of that disruption is occurring a little bit further downstream. But certainly on our portion of the property, what we can control will certainly help to keep that ditch, you know, free and flowing. Forward.
Yeah, one other comment or question, Mr. Smith. I thought that Ms. Jameson had a valid concern there with regard to the flooding. I've been here a long time and I've witnessed that myself over the years. So can you speak to your runoff control
Yeah.
plan or mapping? And I know you have a detention or retention pond there
Right.
and how that's going to work.
Well, it's the kind of the nice thing is, over probably, I don't know, maybe the last 20 years, a lot of the stormwater requirements have changed for the better. They become a lot more stringent in terms of what you can and can't do with runoff and how you have to essentially capture all of the increase in runoff. So you take a look at the site today, and Wes, if I speak out of turn, you're the engineer, so just let me know if I say anything that's incorrect. But you take a look at a site today and the way that it's functioning today as a field, which is basically the lowest amount of runoff you can get. It is a farm field or grass. That's the most percolation you're ever going to get. So then as you develop the site, what you have to do is you have to take the difference in the impervious surface between what was there before and then what is going to be built there ultimately. And you have to determine what the increase in runoff will be from that. And then for a predetermined period of time, you actually have to hold that increase in runoff in a stormwater pond, in a stormwater facility, and you cannot release it at a rate that's any higher than the stormwater essentially that's exiting the site today. And so the goal ultimately through that engineering process, again, is to make sure that a lot of additional stormwater isn't getting into the ditch faster than it's getting there today. And so that's pretty heavily regulated, not only by the city, but by the EPA and a number of other folks in that process. Over the years, you used to see, I can remember, 30 years ago in my career where you would have development that maybe didn't properly account for that and it became a problem. But in most modern developments, that those issues are more often than not cleaned up than they are, exacerbated.
Where do you have, and then you have the water getting into the pond there. Where is it emptying into from there? Where do you have it?
It still will exit into the ditch. So the pond has a volume of storage built into it. So if you think of a bathtub, a bathtub holds a certain amount of water. Maybe you fill the bathtub up halfway. That would be something that we would consider like the normal pool. So the bathtub still has volume available to put additional water in it. And you can continue to fill that bathtub, and it will continue to store that water until you get to the point where it's about ready to overflow. And then if everybody thinks about the bathtub, usually there's that little overflow valve in it so that it keeps the water, it lets that water go down the drain before it spills over to the side on the floor. Stormwater basins are designed much in the same way. They have an overflow system. They have flood management routing. And so those are designed essentially to continue to fill up like a bathtub. And then as the rain stops, slowly release that water at that predetermined rate till that reaches its normal pool again. And then in the case of a flood of biblical proportions, there's not much anybody that can do about that. So they're designed for flood routing. To make sure that those floods can escape in the fastest way possible with the minimal amount of damage to any of the surrounding homes.
I just had two more things on the ditch. We just talked about this in stormwater, the utility. It doesn't mean that we're going to wait until stormwater utility is formed if it gets all the way through the process and approved. We know that's a focus area. Prairie Run is a focus area. Also on streets, I drive the same streets that every one of you drives, and I know there's traffic issues out there. I know personally, I'm trying to think of every single way we can address this through technology, process, practice, engineering before adding pavement for all the reasons that we're talking about: stormwater management, infrastructure costs, liability, traffic routine changes, patterns, things like that. So we have efforts underway to address it. It is not ever going to stop our need to focus on this. But I also don't believe that traffic is a reason to not rezone a parcel. Anybody who's owned property in the past or been in contract to do something with your own property knows that property owners have rights within the Ohio Revised Code to do with it within the confines of the law, what you're able to do and to have capitalism work here. That's why you invested in the property, is to make a profit and to make it turn it into a good product. So.
Well, it's dual-fold. I mean, the development is a process, and you know, the one thing that's kind of universal through generally in the United States is that for the most part, the state or cities, they don't build houses, they don't build housing, they need houses, but that's typically left up to private entities to provide the housing needs and you know, the needs of the marketplace in any city, village, township, you know, across the United States. And so, you know, part of it is understanding the market, you know, what's necessary and what's needed in the village of Sunbury, what products are marketable, how they fit in with the marketplace. You know, in our case, we spent a lot of time talking with the city, looking through the comprehensive plan, trying to put together a plan that closely mirrored the comprehensive plan as much as possible, which I think we've done. And, you know, the reality is, I mean, every community needs to provide housing in order to also attract tax dollars. The one thing that's true for every community is you're feeling the effects of inflation the same way we are. And so, you know, your salt costs are going up, your employment costs are going up. Fortunately, it seems like your insurance costs are going down. So that's okay. But you know, all of those costs continue to go up. So there's two ways that you can account for that increase in cost. One is through growth, or the other is through increasing taxes on the people who already live here without growth. One of those is, it can be done in a smart way, in a sustainable way, and one of those is not sustainable. Because the community will only accept a certain amount of tax increase before, you know, crying foul. So, I mean, growth is kind of an inevitable portion of it. And if you look at what the city's done, and the mayor mentioned earlier, you know, trying to grow in a smart way, some of the comprehensive planning that you've done, especially with the Parkway. I mean, think about the Parkway and the millions of square feet of potential employment and commercial uses along the Parkway. Those folks are going to need a place to live. And we all know right now that Central Ohio is nearly 20,000 housing units short of where it needs to be to accommodate the population and the housing needs of Central Ohio. Now, that's not to say that Sunbury has to make up that deficit, but certainly you know, it's part of it. And so you know, I think it's important to look at those things. I think everybody has kind of a fear of growth because growth is an unknown. But I think that the city does a pretty good job of managing it in a pretty smart way. And, you know, we went through a very lengthy process with the planning commission trying to get this tuned up to where everybody was pretty happy with it. And, you know, the developer had to make a lot of concessions, but in the end, we get a much better product out of it. And I think it's something that is going to serve the city of Sunbury well.
I just have one more question. Will the townhomes, will they have their individual trash picked up or are there dumpsters?
Yeah, there's no plan for collective pickup. So, you know, the idea would be to have, you know, individual bins just like you would have at a house. And so the trash truck will go down the street and just collect individual bins.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions? We have Mr. Smith. All right, all good. All right. This is the first reading, so I believe we're going to see you in a couple weeks.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, we're on to doing unfinished business. Let's go through the agenda items here. We have Sunbury Rules of Council. I believe those have been distributed and they may be in your packet. Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilman Martin.
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Ghosh. Discussion.
Yeah, I just wanted to say for the record, I know you guys got an email about it, but we changed some of the wording just so that it was a little more gender neutral. everywhere that it said chairman, we changed to chair. And there was a specific area in here where it said the mayor or in his absence. And so we changed that to say the mayor or in the mayor's absence.
Right. Thank you. Any questions? All right, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mr. Capel,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Neff,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney. 7 days.
All right, employee health insurance rates, we need an approval of this for final underwriting, is that what we're looking for?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. All right, so we got final underwriting back and we need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Councilman Grumney,
Second.
second by Councilman Capel, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mr. Capel,
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Neff,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
7 days.
All right, management advisory group, may someone from staff speak to this, please?
Yeah, so the proposal that's in front of you, we talked about it at the finance committee meeting 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, I guess now. So basically, this is management services to support the phase 2 of the facility planning project. Mr. Collinsworth had served as the owner's rep for phase 1. This would be serving in that capacity for phase 2, which is detailed design drawings, and also then to begin preparation for the financing of the project. So that's the official statement, that's the rating for the city, those types of supports.
Thank you. Any questions? You may have noticed, looks like Mr. Collinsworth changed institutions. So that's.
Yes.
what I wanted
Yeah,
to
we
call.
talked a little bit about that in the finance committee meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he did not move with the managing partner folks when they were acquired by Baker Tilly. So
Great. Thank you very much. We need a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Council President Tim Goes,
Second.
second by Mr. Grumney. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mr. Capel,
Yes.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
and Mr. Neff.
Yes.
7 days.
Great. We're on to the ODOT Sunbury Outpost Letter of Interest.
Okay, starting on page 44 of your packet is a brief memo. We've discussed this before. ODOT has some surplus property, approximately 0.8 of an acre, located on South Morning Street. They allow public entities kind of a first option on as they dispose of property. It's been appraised and the memo has the appraised value. With fees, it was 50,680, and I'm gonna plead with them to cut the fees part, but we'll see. But maximum expense would be 50,680. It's cleared their internal environmental process. It's not a phase 1. We are getting this property as is, where is type of thing, but I did include their quote. This is an ecological exempt property and there's no resource on the property that we need to be concerned about. That was from ODOT. So and they did provide some of the reports to the best. They seem fine. There is a usable building there and an extension currently. We may have moved to that. I think, one, that large of a parcel downtown, that large of a parcel located in proximity to the Ohio Erie Trail. It's probably a wise purchase. I would ask you for a motion so that I can send them an expression of interest, and that will then generate a sales agreement. And you would have the ability to vote on the sales agreement within 1 or 2 meetings.
I'll motion to have you send the letter of interest.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ghost, second by Mr. Capel, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Ghost,
Yes.
Mr. Capel,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper. Yes. Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mr. Neff,
Yes.
Mayor St. John.
Yes.
7 yeas.
We're on to First Commonwealth Bank account access. Ms. Stefan.
This is the formality required by the bank only. This is nothing that the city of Sunbury is requiring. It's simply to change the authorized users on the account. And it was triggered by Kathy's retirement.
Okay, great. I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Martin, discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Capel,
Yes.
Mr. Ghost,
Yes.
Mr. Neff,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
and Mrs. Cooper. Yes. 7 yeas.
Right, we're on to special event permit and block party policies.
I can speak to them. These are in your OneDrive. I'm just asking that everybody would read over them in the next 2 weeks. If you have any questions or comments, if you could email me or call me, and then I'll be looking for approval at the next meeting.
Sorry, I haven't read through all these. This doesn't have to do with parades, correct?
No.
No parades.
All right. Thank you. We are under new and unfinished business. Mr. Ghost.
Yes, so it's the beginning of the year, our first meeting. I did want to, for the record, just articulate the couple of changes we have made with the committee assignments moving forward this year. So we moved Ms. Cooper out of parks and into services. And we have Mr. Grumney out of services and into parks. And then we have Mr. Martin over to special events. Those are the only concrete changes that we have for this year, unless I'm missing something. So that's for the record.
Thank you very much.
So do we need to approve that, don't we? Do we have to have a motion and a vote on the committee assignments?
I don't think so.
I don't believe so, according to council rules. I think it's the president pro temp's ability to make any changes.
That's right. According to your rules, the authority is delegated.
Oh, okay.
to the President Pro Tem already.
And that was based on all of our collective input.
Okay.
Any other new or unfinished business?
No, sir.
All right, thank you.
I just have a brief comment. So I'm quickly approaching, maybe a week or two out from completing my first year at city council. And I just like to say it's been an awesome experience. Call me a sick man, but I have gone on YouTube and watched other council meetings in other cities. Just to see how they behave and act and.
Looking to fall asleep.
Interesting, I guess. I don't. No shoes thrown yet, so that's a good thing, but no. But I am duly impressed on this council, how we interact, the leadership we have, the city staff. Have all been so helpful to me understanding, and that includes Wes and Dave and everyone, you know, Daryl and Steve, and I won't start naming names because I don't forget people and hurt feelings, but I just want to say everyone's been wonderful. Like my fellow council members, the respectful residents, bringing their concerns and sharing those with us, allowing us a chance to address those and alleviate some concerns and problems, or at least address them. And then I'd also just like to specifically point out the mayor, because it's clear that he puts a lot of time and effort into this city and devotes himself into his vision of where this city is going. And I think that's something that I certainly appreciate, and just appreciate his leadership. And thank you to all of council for allowing me to serve with you this year, and look forward for the next 3 at least. So, yeah, for sure.
Well said. My goodness, this guy.
Nice job, Mr. Governor.
We're gonna block all these things. Mr. Capel.
Hold on, one other quick thing I wanted to mention for the record for committee assignments.
You had your turn already.
I'll make it brief. There has been some preliminary discussion on creating another committee called the Economic Development. Mr. Neff has provided some detailed input and thoughts on that and feedback, and I've had one preliminary discussion with Mr. Mayor. We have some more discussion on that to do, and especially with staff, and get their input. So that's a possible future committee.
I think that sounds like a good idea. I just remembered too, that I meant to ask if the finance subcommittee needs to be represented in that list or not as well, because that's another committee that meets on a somewhat regular basis.
That's right. Yeah, it's not in this list. It's not on this sheet, but
I didn't know if it needed to be or not, but
we do meet on an as needed basis.
probably more than some of those other committees do.
Well, I'll make a note to add that to the sheet. Thank you, Mr.
Can I
Campbell.
make a comment on the Economic Development Committee? First, I think this is a good idea. It does not require me to approve or anything. I think we can, through a motion of council, create a committee. I do think it's
Actually, anybody can create one if they want to.
Like John Grubney on the Plaque Committee. I mean, I don't recall the specific rule, but I guess what I'm saying is, I think it's a good idea. I think we may want to take the time to get this right. I think we're at a pivotal point in Sunbury's history. I'm sure the mayor's 20 terms ago said the same thing, but I do think it's important that we get it right in the focus so we get the most out of everybody's time who is on that committee. One thing, I had a chance to talk to Mr. Neff and Mr. Ghost separately earlier today, and I said, I would love for there to be an initial focus on our existing business community, because oftentimes economic development initiatives go out and they're headhunting, for lack of a better term. Like, we want this user, we want this, we want a Aldi's or Costco or something like that. And I think we need to really look inward first and say, what can we do to support the existing businesses here? Listening to them tell us what are the concerns, traffic, congestion, parades, who knows? I mean, we need to ask those questions first.
Retention, focus on business retention. That's Mr. Hennessy pointed out earlier.
Right, a big focus. And then one thing I think we just owe it to ourselves is we want to avoid any pitfalls. Sometimes economic development teams get a bad rap that you're going out to just, let's just throw every government tax incentive at this to get a user, get a type of user. I think we need to be really thoughtful around, the long-term impact of what that committee's role would be. Not that they could implement a tax policy change, but the recommendations I think should be taken seriously by council. That's all. And hopefully that came across that I think it's a good idea.
Mr. Neff, did you want to add your 2 cents or?
No, I definitely think more in-depth conversation would be needed to create the kind of structure and the tasks of what that committee would do. But I do think it's a committee that is on the horizon and we should really look into it and start investigating and figuring the details out of it.
There's a lot of things we're working on already that lend itself to being bound together with economic development. I think streetscaping is a big one, especially when you talk about existing businesses. There's any number of other major projects we've got coming up that would be a very relevant topic for such a committee.
Yeah, it seems like some of the research I've done is it's a large topic. It's all encompassing. Every one of us is involved with economic development at some point in local government. That's just what you do. But it's some things, I don't see this as a committee that's really going to get into the weeds of creating a detailed district plan, but they're going to look at the district plan and kind of how do you play it? How do you market that? Because marketing is also part of it as well too. So I think it's something that I agree with you of looking at the existing business first and making sure we got everything right for everybody.
Right. Good feedback. Good comment.
That's very good. Thank you.
All right. Did we make it this far yet?
I think you ended at me, but I don't have anything. So
okay. Mrs. Cooper.
Yeah, just with the new year, I had gotten some questions about trash pickup with the holidays and they couldn't find the 2023 schedule on our website. So I asked Amber and she uploaded that schedule to our website. And just for your own information, because I looked it up because I thought for sure that our trash would be delayed. It turns out that if the holiday falls on a Saturday or a Sunday, our trash is not delayed. So had the snow event not happened, our trash would have been picked up on Wednesday, which is why they put out this. So it was so interesting so that our trash was picked up today because New Year's was on a Sunday. So moving forward, it's on the website now if any residents ask you. And so you know if it falls on a Saturday or Sunday, trash pickup is normal.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Martin.
I'm good.
Ricky. Trim down.
That's right. You got a big trim, big beard trim, I believe.
It's been 2 years since I had my beard cut off.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
You look 10 years younger.
Great.
I don't feel that much younger.
You have anything else for us?
No, I'm good.
All right. Mr. Neff.
Yeah, so I would like to draw attention to the Citizens Recognition Program.
Oh, yeah.
That has gone into place. Where I think you actually said something in your state of the city about serving others, and that's really kind of a thing that the residents will nominate people who have served or made a difference in Sunbury, so we can bring them in and recognize them for the positive changes they're making to our city.
I think that's a great idea.
Great idea.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up in the events committee. And yeah, good idea. Anything else? All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Councilman Ghost. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Ghost,
Yes.
Mr. Capel,
Yes.
Mr. Neff,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
7 yeas were adjourned.
Sounds good.
Exactly.
Thank you.
When you